In my restless dreams, I see that town. Silent Hill. You promised me you'd take me there again someday, but you never did. Because you're on fucking Twitter complaining about it like a spurg. Jesus. Ugh. Folks, if you can't tell, we are going to be, we're going to be talking about Silent Hill today. The good stuff, the bad stuff, the crazy stuff. And we'll be asking one of the most important philosophical questions of all time on this podcast. So, I expect everybody to let people know that this podcast, we're looking to solve philosophical problems. To this week's question being, why are you gay? Just why?
Why are you gay?
Who says I'm gay?
You are gay.
Bruh. So, folks, we'll be talking about that, and I'll also be talking about actual problems instead of, people on the Twitter losing their fucking mind. So, let's go ahead and get this started. My name is Micah Curtis, head of Grindstone Arts with the crew. Welcome, once again, to On the Grind. Alright. So, this is an interesting review because I need to preface this because for those of you who are not watching the video version of this episode, because the audio version always goes out first, one of the games, or the game that I am reviewing this week, is the remake of Silent Hill 2. I just finished it on Saturday. And the thing is, I can't really review this without talking about how the original impacted me and how I experienced it. So I first got I didn't play Silent Hill 2 until I want to say about, oh god, it was 2009, 2010, somewhere around that time. And I had gone to GameStop, because GameStop was still a thing that people went to back in those days. And I had traded in some games, and then picked up Arkham Asylum, which of course, another one of the all-time greatest games of all time. But yeah. So, but while I was there, I noticed that they had a PlayStation 2 sale going on. And there was a copy of Silent Hill 2 that was, I think it was like $10. And the guy behind the counter goes, "Have you ever played Silent Hill 2? I'm like, "Nah, I've never been. I never got into Silent Hill." And he's like, "If you want to get any of them, get that one."
Yeah, because the first one is a little weak.
Yeah, it's an interesting. The first one is kind of weird because it's like, has great atmosphere for its time, but it stops being scary because it gives you so much ammo that you're practically Rambo. Which again has also been like one of the bigger flaws of like some of the Resident Evil games, is that you're so tough and so capable that like you like, oh, here's a shambling horror from wherever the fuck. Oh, well, here's my 12 gauge Remington. This is my answer. Blam. Oh, buckshot still works. Awesome. Okay, not scared anymore. So, Silent Hill 2 was a bit different in that regard, because the atmosphere was so thick and oppressive that you didn't really want to linger in any one place for far too long. And if you could avoid combat, you would. Now, one thing I should say is that, in retrospect, the combat in Silent Hill, the original Silent Hill 2, was kind of piss easy, because you could just stun lock just about every enemy with a melee weapon, and they would never damage you. But anyway, So I played Silent Hill 2, and I will freely admit, I got freaked the fuck out by it. And I was kind of at a point where, like, horror games weren't quite doing it for me. At least, like, the survival horror titles I had played up to that point. So, with this particular game, I was like, okay, interesting. And, the, as it went on, I just remember how again, atmosphere is everything in the Silent Hill games. Like, that is, if there's one thing that Silent Hill 1 through 4 has a claim to fame in, is that you're not going to find a horror game that does atmosphere as well as those did. But Silent Hill 2, it just had a tremendous story to it. But it was of course like early installment weirdness in regards to like the voice acting and stuff like that. Like if you go back and listen to like stories from the original voice actors, none of them had done this before. So it was Oh, go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say, I mean, that's kind of what you want these days to get the authentic feel. It feels like it's just to get people that haven't done this shit before. Yeah.
It worked for them because the awkwardness and things of that nature, that really worked well, or worked in their favor. But at the same time, like, if you sat down in the modern day with somebody who like understands acting and stuff like that, you look at those scenes and you're just like, yeah, it was a different time. Because it was at a time where video games were just only now starting to get voice acting on a regular basis. There was a little bit of it in the PlayStation era, but it wasn't as widespread. But all of it was always awkward. It was never like the standards did not start to go up until the Legacy of Kain and Metal Gear Solid games got more popular. You know, and even then the worm didn't properly start turning until we saw that, you know, the bigger studios were starting to spend more money on voice actors and stuff like that. I'm of the opinion that the big turning point in the history of voice acting, when like more emphasis on quality really started coming along, because it started with Metal Gear Solid and Legacy of Kain, because those, in the PlayStation days, like, nothing touched them in regards to voice acting, and they just continued to be really, really good. Even in Blood Omen 2, which is the weakest of the entire Legacy of Kain series, the voice acting's really fucking good in it. But like, the things didn't start getting like top notch until like Final Fantasy X, where they brought in a ton of like veterans and shit like that, and it's like, you brought in Bender to be the most racist character in all of Final Fantasy history, you know. But anyway, back to Silent Hill. Basically the point I'm making is early installment weirdness. You know, it worked for the context, but as time, it was aging. You know, everything about Silent Hill 2, the original, except for its atmosphere and music, was starting to age or significantly as the years went on. But I played through the game once, and it was one of those experiences where I remember it so vividly, and it was such a special thing to play through it and to get through all the revelations of it, that I never wanted to play it again, because I was genuinely worried, if I play this too much, I'm going to dilute the original experience, and I never want to lose what I felt. It's a really, really, really weird way of saying things like that, but there's certain movies that I'm like that with as well. Like, I've only ever watched The Godfather Part 2 once, because I don't want to taint how I originally felt when I first watched it. I'm the same way with Schindler's List. I've only ever watched Schindler's List once, because I don't want to ever... Yeah, I never want for there to be a point where I feel I forget what I originally felt. I feel like if I watch it too many times, things are just going to start to blend together. You know, because it's like one of those things where I can only kind of now remember how I felt when I watched the original Star Wars because I've watched it so many goddamn times. And the same with a lot of other films. But some memories I don't want to lose them. You know, and so anyway, as time goes on, we have entered remake fever. Granted, there's been remakes going on since the PS2 era. Like it's not like it's really a new thing, but when it comes down to it, um, the uh, the game has become legendary. But remake fever sets in because the Resident Evil remakes are making a really good amount of bank. Um, so Konami sees this and says, "You know what? Why not? We're gonna chill out with the Pachinko for 5 minutes, and we're gonna try to make an actual effort at putting out some really good Silent Hill games." And they announced a bunch of them, but the big one that they announced was that they were remaking Silent Hill 2, which again at this point legendary status and probably one of the most YouTube analyzed video games of all time. But there's a lot to love about it, so I can understand why. But anyway, so what ends up happening is the team that gets tapped to do it is Bloober Team, which is one of the more. I think that I'm not out of line saying that they are one of the more polarizing development houses out there.
Because it's like, who the hell are they?
Yeah, everybody knows them for Layers of Fear. That was kind of like their breakout title. Then they did Observer, which they got fucking Rutger Hauer for that, which is awesome. Then they did the Blair Witch game, and it seems like you just look through their games and like a lot of them are very, very divisive. The Medium is the same way. Some people who played the Medium fucking love it. Other people that play it fucking hate it. But they get assigned to this. People were skeptical. Then it comes out that people who worked on the original title, the original members of Team Silent, specifically the art director and the music director, and are going to be part of this. And it's like, holy shit. Okay, so we've got quality control here. Then they released the first couple of trailers, and the atmosphere was there, but there were little things that needed tweaking. Full game comes out, all of it got tweaked properly. To preface because I'm just now finally actually talking about the remake, this game's amazing. I say it in no uncertain terms. This game is fucking amazing. Just some boilerplate points. It's a really good retelling of the original story. They don't change any of the major plot points at all. Nothing gets changed. The dialogue between the characters is similar to what it was in the original, but tuned up in a good way. It feels a lot more natural now. I especially really like Maria's voice actress and the actress who plays her. I think she's great. I think the girl who does Angela is really good too. Because the original Angela felt kind of detached from reality. Whereas the way that Angela is played in this is that she's there when you look in her eyes, but she's not there at the same time. because all the shit that happened to her is still ticking in her brain and affects everything that she does, and it's great. And then Eddie, who's fat, he's really good in this as well. Um, there's some changes with him that I'll talk about in a bit, but he's still Eddie. So like none of the characters got changed or anything along those lines. The designs have been are a little bit updated. Maria, instead of wearing this Christina Aguilera outfit, she wears a tight leather dress. And when I mean tight, I mean when you're walking behind her, like I didn't know that a dress could leave nothing to the imagination, but goddamn. Um, so that's a thing. But yeah, the acting performances throughout the whole thing are really really good. James, of course. The big thing with all of this is that it's not easy to portray a character that um, is keeping secrets and has an under layer to them. It's not easy to do, and yet it got done quite well here by everybody involved because Silent Hill, if I could describe what it's about in at least in two, it's about sin and trauma. It's about the trauma that all the characters have gone through and about the sins that they committed in because of that trauma and coming to grips with with what exactly it is. And whenever stuff like this happens, you know, one of three things is going to happen. You're going to give into it and become a worse person. You're going to give up and basically just kill yourself, or you're going to do the Jungian psychology thing and move through your shadow and you know,
Deal with your bullshit.
yeah, exactly, deal with your dark side and then come through it a better person than you did before. And basically what James's story is and how it ends is completely determined by how you play the game. So yeah, VA work, excellent. Everybody feels fucked in the head. It's exactly how it's supposed to. The other thing is that because this is a remake, there are things that are changed from the original, and the things that were changed in a positive way. Um, everything has the same idea of how Silent Hill is supposed to work, but now what they have in this is they've expanded on them and complemented the original ideas rather than trying to just get rid of them. And this is especially true with the puzzles. All the puzzles in this and all, you know, things like that, there's a symbolism to them in subtle, fun little ways that when you go back and if you are familiar already with Silent Hill 2's story and you've already played the original and you're playing this remake, you're gonna go, oh, okay, I see how that's connected to everything and how the town is still trying to get James to come to grips with what he's done. But if you have never played Silent Hill 2 before and this is your first time playing it, when you play this again, if you replay it, you're going to notice a lot of these elements, be like, oh my god. So there's that. So there's new puzzles as well, and stuff like, it's so good, so well put together. Another thing I really like about it, especially with puzzles and item gathering, is that whenever James has to do something that's either disgusting or potentially like jumping into a pit or something like that, you have to press the action button multiple times, almost like you as the player are coaxing James to do it. Like you're actually shoving him and forcing him to do it, because he's not going to do it otherwise. That was a nice little touch that I really liked that they did. The other thing to
Yeah,
mention also about the puzzles is that because they lean into the symbolism of Silent Hill, they're not reliant on like adventure game logic.
yeah, that's the one thing that usually holds back a lot of the survival horror. It's like, oh, now you got to go put it together a key that. How does these things link together? Why can't you go through this horse statue without the Zodiac or whatever the fuck it was in Resident Evil 2?
Yeah. The most egregious one to me in the original Silent Hill 2 is in the prison, where you have to find a wax statue, a lighter, and a horseshoe to open a vent.
That's
That
some
has never
fucking
left me.
that is like a '90s fucking like
That's
adventure
about,
game logic.
yeah, that's Monkey Island is what that is.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. The other thing to mention, the combat in this. You hardly feel in control of a situation unless you've got a lot of ammo. And it's very rare that you're going to have a lot of ammo. I always had like a little bit of ammo, but was at a point where I would effectively, my strategy was, you only get 3 guns in this. You get pistol, shotgun, hunting rifle. And,
3 genders.
basically. But, the pistol is obviously your workhorse weapon. What I ended up because every ammo box you get only has a couple rounds in it. So and this is, by the way, I tested this on like the easiest difficulty to see if that was the case, and it is. Like, you still don't get a ton of ammo. It's just it takes a lot less to bring enemies down. Um,
Serena
the
says, "I identify as a hunting rifle. Respect my pronouns, bigots."
Serena, at the moment, for those wondering, she is here, but her stomach is messing with her, so don't be surprised if we give messages until she's feeling up to speaking. But anyway, the God, sorry, that was funny, but the one thing that I like about the comic combat is that it feels manic. It feels like you're flailing, and because the enemies are so aggressive that you're just constantly fighting to get them off of you. And the only time you really ever feel in control is when you get the jump on one of them. Because one thing that I found out is that if you kneecap one of them with your handgun, shoot them in like the lower part of the hamstring or the thigh area, or right in the kneecap, they will drop to one knee, and then you can run up and hit them with like the thunderous smack from the heavens and almost kill them. So that's nice. The only con to the combat I have is that it's difficult to get away from enemies.
Right.
So constantly running around the enemies is not really something that you can do like you could in the original. The town feel, a lot of it adds to this idea that Silent Hill is more aggressive in this than it was in the original. Like it feels like the town itself will not stop until James actually faces what's in front of him and and the things that he's done. It constantly feels like it is. It gives you this sense that there is a boot on your throat, and the town is not gonna let up until you confess as to what you've done. And literally, because that's how it plays out in the game. When you finally get to the big reveal of it, the town actually starts dying, and like you actually see a few of the monsters that you come up against, and because James has actually faced the truth of what he did, the monsters just start dying because their purpose of trying to get him to face what he did and punish him for it is it's over.
Powerless at that point.
Yeah, exactly. They just fall over dead right in front of you. It's really, really cool. Um, and then, of course, like, you've got Akira Yamaoka working on the audio stuff and the music. It's still incredible. Like, the audio is what fucks with you. Because it never lets you get comfortable. Have you ever sat on one of those old plastic chairs in school, and they have
Mm.
and one of the little like knobs at the bottom is missing on one of them?
Oh,
That you can like never get comfortable. That is what playing this is like audio wise. The audio is never gonna let the chair have that fourth leg. You're just constantly balancing to be manageable within that situation. And then by the time that you finally get to like the hotel, which is the final area of the game, you're finally at a point where you're not comfortable, you don't feel good, but you're so used to it that you feel like you can get through it a little bit easier. It's sort of like you have you ever had to do a long walk through the rain to get home one day?
Arena says
Sir,
yes.
yeah, Serena has. So, when you have to do that, especially if it's heavy rain, you start out getting really wet and miserable. By the time that you're like 2/3 of the way home, you've gotten used to being wet and cold that you just don't notice that it's there. It's just sort of like, I have accepted this is my fate, and I'm going to have to deal with this, so there's no point in letting it get to me anymore. And then, and basically, effectively, by the time you feel that way in Silent Hill 2, you have reached the big reveal, and you're at the end of the game. It's wonderfully paced. There are some cons though to the remake. One, this is the Unreal Engine 5 game, so on PC there are performance issues. There were some points where I ran into some massive stutters when the game was effectively
Terrible.
just loading stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
Digital Foundry ended up doing a video about it, and it's basically comes down to engine problems. The console version, from what I've heard, doesn't have any issues like that. So for those of you who are getting it on the PS5, then there you go. You're gonna be fine. But on my particular rig, it was having issues. And then when I watched Maximilian's stream, he was having similar problems. The difference is that he had such like a high end video card that like he was seeing frame rate drops from like super high frame rate to like what we would consider a normal frame rate. I would see drops from about 30 to 60 all the way to like 15.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah, because I've got a GTX 1080. Like my card's getting old. So, effectively, that's the biggest problem. Now, one thing I will say, since we have seen Space Marine 2 deal with similar issues, I have no doubt that that Bloober can patch this and fix it. They're probably working on it already. But honestly, when it like, do I recommend the remake of Silent Hill 2? Abso-fucking-lutely. Silent Hill 2 is one of the greatest stories that's ever been told in the video game medium, and the remake is no exception. Bloober Team did a great job with this. They obviously listened to feedback from longtime Silent Hill fans about things that needed to be done to make sure that this felt like Silent Hill, or Silent Hill 2. That included the facial models and things along those lines. And they listened. Konami listened, Bloober Team listened, and they made the game very, 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 very good. I'm going to probably get some hate for this. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to say this anyway. Game of the year.
And bro.
Yeah, it is that good. I wasn't expecting it to be that good, but I honestly think that I would much rather, if I'm going to replay it, or replay Silent Hill 2, I will probably go back to this version instead of the original.
Rena's figures that it's either this game or Black Myth Wukong as her game of the year.
See, I can't do the 10-cent thing. No. No, 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 no. Can't do it. But anyway, overall, if you enjoyed the original Silent Hill 2 and you're not one of these weirdos that's like just opposed to any and all remakes, you will probably enjoy the hell out of this.
So, for a first-time person coming into this, would you suggest it?
Yes, I would say go ahead and play the remake because you're getting the exact same experience. Um, Admittedly, I would actually argue that it's more intense than the original, especially the Abstract Daddy, that boss fight. Like it is. The original was not subtle. Like the original room you fought it in was not subtle, or like with the pistons and stuff like that. This takes it up to 10. Like you, it feels like you're like the boss is actually going to like leap through the screen and sexually assault you. Like
Me with a good time.
it's fucking intense. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I was like, this is phenomenal. Um, my favorite boss fight though was the boss fight with Eddie. I really like that one a lot. Because it's kind of a cat and mouse game. And then I figured out that the best way to beat him is actually to turn off your flashlight and just go by audio cues. And one thing I didn't know is that there is locational damage on the models. I guess I just didn't pay attention to it. So when I killed him, there was this giant gaping wound right where his heart is from my hunting rifle.
I mean, best place for it.
Yeah, so get fucked, fatso. So yeah, overall, phenomenal. Oh, last thing I need to mention that I love about this is they do something that the original did, in the sense that there's only one scene where a monster gets like a big flashy cutscene introduction, and it's the very first one that you find.
Okay.
Everything else, the enemies just show up, and you just have to deal with them. One of my favorites being, because of course Pyramid Head is in this. It would be really weird if he wasn't. Um, the the first time you see him is not in a cutscene. Some people think that like the one where he's messing around with the mannequins, which some people thought that it was meant to imply that he was raping them. Masahiro Ito has come out and said that that's not the case. But that's not the first time that you see Pyramid Head. The first time you see him is in a hallway, and he's literally just staring at you, just watching you from behind some bars. And you can get pretty close to him, and he will just keep staring at you. And one thing that was funny is when I saw him for the first time, like I was petrified, because that, I will freely admit, Pyramid Head scares the shit out of me. There's just something about him that just it unsettles me to levels that I can't explain. But the first time that I saw him in this game, I sat there and I just looked at him for, I want to say about I want to say a good 5 minutes. Because the thing about it is like you kind of wonder, is he going to do anything? But all you do is you're just looking at him and you just hear your radio, which tells you when there's enemies nearby, going fucking nuts. So it's basically your radio and all the audio cues, everything around you is telling you that you are in the worst danger of your existence within this game. And it's just staring at you. And you're just like, what the fuck? So yeah, but there's Pyramid Head's appearance in the labyrinth area. You're just walking along, and then he just shows up around a corner. He just turns the corner, and he's there. And you're like, oh, fuck! I like that a lot more than, like, jump scares that feel like cutscenes. I just want to see it happen, because it just feels more authentic and feels more, I guess you could say, real. Because if something wants to kill you, they're going to just do it. Yeah.
It's not going to give you a few seconds to be like, oh, hey, I'm a big, scary monster. I'm going to pound my chest.
Yeah.
No. It's going to fucking jump you.
Exactly. Like, the first thing that he does is he comes around that corner with a big-ass knife and swings it at you. It's like, oh, fuck! It just scared the bejesus out of me. I'm like, oh, no, I'm in trouble. Because I didn't realize I was in that section of the labyrinth. I'm like, oh, fuck. So yeah. Now, with my recommendation, we gotta talk about a thing. This game has broken the culture warriors. Like, to a level that I'm kind of surprised by. Because you have essentially turned the culture warriors out there into schizo-posting neats. And I'm kind of surprised by it in some ways. Because I didn't think that people would just lose their shit over literally everything with this particular remake.
Well, to be fair, it has set the immune systems of us really, 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 really high as a result of, what, fucking 10 years of interculture warfare here?
Yeah.
The response is understandable, but it's a little overblown in this case. Maybe a touch.
Yeah, because it's like, it's one of those things, the old thing by Nietzsche, just, it repeats in my head all the time about staring into the abyss. You know, you start to deal with this, like, it will literally drive you insane. And you start to become the very thing that you hate. Because some of the shit that I see, like, this is just right-wing Anita Sarkeesian. That's all it is. It's like all of a sudden, I saw somebody had said something about it on Twitter that phrased it really well. Because the thing about it is like, also, like, some people are getting legitimately, like, irony poisoned to believing things that years ago they would have completely despised. Where's the... I saw that Lolly had tweeted something. And then...
Just looking for a tweet at the moment.
I remember that there was a response to it from somebody who watches his channel and mine that it was kind of a reflection of the Anita Sarkeesian thing, but like, yeah, the like schizo right-wing version of it. Let me find it. Yeah, it's something like everything is woke, everything is something, everything is Jewish, and you have to point it all out. And let me say this, because I mentioned this early in the podcast, is that there were obvious problems with the first trailer that dropped because the models just didn't look right. They needed tweaking. They didn't feel authentic, and they did it. Um, the there are people that now are at a point where they're complaining that it's woke because the 19-year-old rape victim isn't hot.
It's a little
They're
off-putting.
yeah, they're effectively complaining about the idea that Maria doesn't look like a fucking supermodel or some shit. Which is kind of weird to me because she wasn't that attractive in the original game, like, at all. She looked like an average woman, but was dressing kind of hoish. Which is exactly what's in the new game, too. She looks like an average, pretty good looking woman that is dressing a certain way. Because she's supposed to be provocative because of what that character symbolizes, but she's also supposed to look like James's wife. James Sunderland is an average dude working an average job with an average wife and an average life. And then shit just goes sour. That's it. Silent Hill is not about supermodels and super buff guys getting into crazy combat and all this other stuff. It's not Resident Evil. It's not meant to be Resident Evil. It is meant to be average people have to deal with their sins. Specifically in Silent Hill 2. Because some of these stories that you hear sound like something that you may have heard of in real life. Young woman gets raped by her father and her brother and then gets victim blamed by her mother. I've heard stories like this before. There's a couple people I know that went through similar trauma like that in their lives. But that's Angela's story. The character of Eddie, anybody who grew up chubby is going to understand how that character feels. Because if you grow up chubby, like here in the US, you are going to get made fun of fucking mercilessly. The bullies are never going to leave you alone. Ever.
Up here in Canada, it was fucking awful.
Yeah, it's... I grew up chubby too. And my bullies when I was a kid, man, they were merciless. It wasn't too bad in high school because I slimmed down, but they would not let off of you. It's brutal. You can understand why it doesn't excuse what Eddie does, but you can understand why he snaps and why he does the things that he does, and it drives him to basically becoming a terrible human being because he feels like that's the only avenue to get people to stop laughing at him. It's something that you can see and you can understand because it feels so human. You know? And that to me is the what makes Silent Hill as great as it is it feels in some ways very relatable. You know, if you're a dad, you're gonna relate to Harry Mason in the original game quite a bit, because I don't care what the Silent Hill movie director says, any father would go through hell to save the life of their daughter.
I know.
You know, so to a lot of these people, I'm genuinely just of the opinion, who are complaining about this are just tourists. They've never played Silent Hill. They don't understand Silent Hill. Because, like, one person that we know, V, flat out said that a game where you're hitting monsters over the head with a pipe can't commentate on sexual assault. What? I'm sorry, what?
That's a bit of a jump.
That is legitimately one of the worst takes I've ever seen on Silent Hill 2. And his whole take about it is the dumbest shit, because he's saying that all of it stems from people that are disgusted by the recent, this is his quote from him, disgusted by the recent trend of AAA games making women look like men for the purpose of inclusivity. This game isn't fucking doing that. You goofy Romanian fucking moron. It's not doing that at all. If you, which we'll get to that in a second. But you had this V, you dumb Romanian bitch. You have stared into the abyss for too long. Way too long. You are seeing woke where it doesn't exist. It's not here. All of these people are seeing woke where it doesn't exist. The women in this game do not look like men at all. There is no, the if you feel like the main character is being demasculated and oppressed by the game itself, that's the fucking point of Silent Hill. He has to face his sins. He has to face the things that he did wrong. He has to face all of the sexual frustrations that he dealt with while his wife was in the hospital. He has to deal with all these things that are traumas from when his wife was in the hospital and fucking dying.
He's not a good person. I mean, that's the whole game.
Yeah. And you have to face what he did. Spoilers, skip this part if you've never played Silent Hill or Silent Hill 2. Is James's wife was sick, whatever disease she had, it was like rotting her flesh away. It went to her brain. It was bad. And he smothered her with a pillow to put her out of her misery.
Just so he could go fuck.
That's part of his conflict, because the final confrontation of the game, like, you find out that truth, that's what happened. The final confrontation in the game is him. He has a discussion with. Well, it depends on the ending you get. If you get the leave ending, he has a conversation with the ghost of his dead wife, where he's basically saying, like, I was embarrassed by you. I hated you so much. Stuff like that. You also realize that it was a complicated scenario because whatever she had was affecting her brain. She would get really angry and abusive verbally towards James when he was just there to visit her. And being someone who dealt with verbal abuse as a young man, that it fucks with you in a way, like mental abuse fucks with you in a way, you second guess all of your beliefs and all of your ideas, and your brain just starts going everywhere, and you have a really hard time keeping your thoughts in order. That's what James is going through.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah, and Maria, like, when you finally speak to her, or Mary rather, just flat out says, like, you did this to put me out of my misery because I was dying anyway. You know, you didn't do this because you hated me. You did this because you hated seeing what was happening to me. You know, and all the other elements of it are true. He did feel sexually frustrated. You know, there's probably a part of him that wanted to cheat just to get his rocks off, just to get the stress out of his system. Because like this is a guy who basically his life was he was working in an office, which sucks, and then going to see his wife, who he loved so dearly, rot away, which also sucks. Nothing about his life was good. All he wanted, effectively, and why Silent Hill is so special, all James wants is to go back to that moment he had with his wife in Silent Hill when they were madly in love with each other and the world was beautiful and all these things, and it all got ruined, and the way that it ended still haunts him. And the game is about him coming to terms with all of that and all that is included in that. So if you're acting as if there's some sort of bringing your weird ass culture war shit into this was fucking stupid. And everybody who did, you're a fucking retard. Period, point blank.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings me to the second thing with this whole thing with what V had said in his dumbass rant, which basically made him an Enida Sarkeesian. Why are you gay?
Why are you gay?
Like, I asked this to V, I asked this to all the culture warriors. Why are you gay? Because when it comes to the idea that there are some people out there that are obviously defeminizing characters for some sort of political motivation, that of course exists. That is yeah, exactly. Like, it's undeniable that exists. I am not disputing that whatsoever. But we have gotten to a point where it's not about making women look like women. It's goonerism. Or you're gay. Because the image that I have in front of me is from the upcoming Tomb Raider animated series. It's going to be on Netflix. That doesn't look like a dude. Like, I watched the trailer, and I'm like, this doesn't look like a dude at all. This looks like a very fit woman. Look at her fucking hips.
Hot take. I never liked OG Lara Croft in the games. It always weirded me out how she was able to move around like that with those big ass bowling balls. And I say this as a woman with big ass bowling balls.
Well, that's the thing. This is something that gets on my tits whenever it comes to stuff like this. I fucking hate it that there are people out there that act that every female design has to be Urza Scarlet from Fairy Tail. That's where we're at. We have come to that. We have come to the opposite of extremes.
Or if you want like a more video game example, Ivy Valentine.
Yeah, that is another good example. Ivy Valentine's another good example. And I fuck it. I hate it. I'm not gonna lie, I fucking hate it. I absolutely fucking hate it. And it seems like just about every person that I see on the internet that's complaining about this is a fucking anime avatar, which makes me think that all you're doing is watching shoujo. Not shoujo, shonen, where most of the women, you know, are overly accentuated. But the thing is like...
Hey, I take offense to that. I have an anime avatar, and I'm not a gooner. Much.
Apologies.
But here's the thing. If you're acting like Laura up above, like on the video version of this, looks like Brock Lesnar, you clearly have not seen what Brock Lesnar looks like, and you've never seen like a fit woman. At least that's my interpretation of it. Because here's the fact of the matter. when a woman spends all of her time spelunking, rock climbing, and in combat, she's not going to have massive boobs. It's not going to happen. But it doesn't mean that she's not feminine either. That I think is stupid. I'm trying to think of a good example of this. Look at a lot of like track stars that you'll see in the Olympics that are women. Especially the Brazilian girls. They're obviously women. But none of them have big knockers. Because they're doing cardio all the time. They're running all the time. Their body fat percentages are going to be very low because of the type of athleticism that they are consistently, engaging in, or athletics that they're consistently engaging in. Their body fat percentage is going to be lower. You see it with some female professional wrestlers. Some of them are the ones that are, working out all the time are very lean. They don't have massive cleavage compared to other women who have massive cleavage. Because some people will say, well, there are some curvy women that work out all the time. Look at, let's take Demon Dice, for example. She's an attractive, curvy lady, right? And she exercises all the time. The thing is, there's a difference between someone who exercises about 45 minutes to an hour every day to keep yourself in good health, to the type of people that are performance athletes. That is effectively what Lara Croft has to be to do what she does. She is basically a performance athlete. She is consistently like rock climbing and everything she does is cardiovascular. So she is going to be slim. She's not going to have big boobs. It's just not going to happen. But she still has a feminine hip structure. She still obviously has breasts. She looks like a woman. Saying that she does... If you look at an obviously feminine figure that obviously does not look like a dude and you say dude, I'm genuinely thinking you are looking for a dude. And you're just going to find what you're looking for everywhere because you have gone crazy.
Let's see. I've seen this short recently that kind of explains this phenomenon. It's this really simple test, okay? So anyone could do it like right now, all right? I want you to look around your room and look for something that's brown. All right?
Okay.
Okay.
On my desk.
You're at your desk. Look for things that are brown.
My desk is brown.
All right, now look back to your screen. Is there anything in your room that was red? No? You can't think of any red things right now because you're looking for brown things. Now go look around for red things right now. Just go look up.
A cup of Alka-Seltzer I have.
Yeah, so you're looking around, you find a couple red things. And there's something your brain will be doing. You'll be like, okay, well, so in order to make your brain succeed, you'll be like, okay, well, I'm going to compromise. I'm going to see this brown thing, but there's this beige thing over here I'm going to count as brown. Or this orange thing over here I'm going to count as red. Or just so you can, that's just to fulfill the thing that you were asked to do. And if you keep looking for this, all you're going to see is that thing. And you're going to keep compromising again and again and again until you get the successful state. And you're going to ignore literally everything else. It's a bit of a trick.
Yeah.
It's very conducive to understanding the state that people have been gotten into these days.
Pretty much. Because the final point that I would make is like if you look at like professional mixed martial arts fighters that are women, none of them are that curvy. If they're curvy, they are curvy for athletic women, which just means they have good genetics.
Like Gina Carano, holy shit, she's curvy for a muscular woman. Holy shit.
But admittedly, on the top area, those probably aren't real.
Probably not.
So, I've seen there's quite a few like female mixed martial artists that have flat out said that because they are of the nature of the athletic endeavor, their boobs get smaller, and they don't like that, so they get implants. There was one fighter named Misha Tate who did exactly that. You know, it's the nature of it. You know, whenever because I box. I love boxing. When I was training to potentially get into like professional competition in my early 30s, some of the women that were in the gym, they were like super skinny. But it was because of the nature of what we were doing. I mean, when I was in training, I dropped down almost below 300 pounds since the first time since my powerlifting days. You know? So, it's just one of those things where it's like, look, I understand having a type. Everybody's got a type whenever it comes to this sort of thing. I get it. I'm not shaming you for that. What I'm shaming you for is being gay. No, I'm kidding. What I'm shaming you for is looking for dicks everywhere. And thinking that every artist out there is trying to turn every female character in the West into a transgender woman. That's not what's going on here. And it's getting to a point where y'all are getting annoying and I kind of want to punch you.
Yeah.
It's just
very minimum.
It's kind of ridiculous, and it has gotten to the point where it's like if you act like the character is not feminine unless they look like Urza Scarlet. Fuck off. Fuck out of here. Go. Just go. Like, go and touch the grass, man. You've got to... At that point, I say this with concern in my heart. At that point, you have become terminally online. Never be terminally online. Never be that guy. Don't be that guy. Bros, please don't be that guy. I don't want any of you to be that guy. I want you to go out and live fulfilling lives and see the beauty of the world. Go out and touch that grass. And don't take people saying go out and touch grass as this big negative like they despise you. It literally helps you to go outside. It literally makes you feel better to get fresh air in your lungs and to go smile at people. Jesus fuck. There is life beyond the internet and the fucking culture war. Most people don't even know the fucking culture war is going on. Go interact with them. You probably meet somebody nice. Go to a nice diner and get a good hamburger. And say hello to the waitress. Strike up a conversation. You know? But just don't make the conversation about politics. Talk about the weather. Talk about anything. Compliment somebody on something. Hey, that's a nice car. You must have worked really hard for that. Hey, thank you for this. This tastes really good. Do me a favor. Compliment the chef for me, and your service was awesome. Here's a little extra tip. Do shit like that. Interact with people. Real human beings, not other autists. Because, I'm going to say this right now, especially to V. When you're quoting Synthetic Man as, like, somebody to fucking, like, listen to, you have gone too far. Because that motherfucker is the most autistic human being on existence. And when I remember I saw a video of the dude playing Silent Hill 2, which he's hypocritical. He fucking did, oh, woke is bad. Let me buy this game. I say that is woke. Fucking, the autism is incredible. You see him and you're like, yeah, I can tell all of your opinions just by looking at you. He is the Jeff Holiday of right-wing creators.
Who?
Exactly. Give it a few years. Nobody will know who Synthetic Man is. My overall point being is, like, you guys need to, like, get away from the culture war for 5 minutes and just go have a normal life. And these people just don't have normal lives. They're just at home all day, not interacting with actual people who do actual, like, normal shit. Don't, like, it's, all you're doing is harming yourself. So if you don't want to get to a point where where a normie like me is looking at you and going, "Why are you gay? Why are you looking for dicks?" If you don't want to get that response from a normal guy like me, stop acting like such a fucking spurg.
Mm-hmm. Stop looking for dicks and you'll stop finding them.
Basically. There's only one dick you should, if you are a dude, there's only one dick you should ever be concerned about. It's your own. Stop looking for them everywhere. Unless you are gay, in which case, just come out the closet, because we're like, this speech is probably dragging some people out the closet. I'm genuinely thinking V is gay. I think he's looking for dicks everywhere. So trying to come out, get your gypsy ass out the closet.
Become a gypsy. What's wrong with you? That's a slur, Micah.
I don't care. The he's a retarded gypsy. So there's two of them, according to most people. Those are both slurs, but which is stupid. It's regardless. Get your ass out the closet. I hope that you find yourself a nice husband, and you adopt a bunch of children, and you're happy. But you're gay. You're not into chicks. You're into dudes. You're looking for penises everywhere.
We're living in a year of our Lord 2024. It's okay to be gay as long as you're not shoving it in people's face.
Yep. So stop polluting everybody's timelines with you looking for dicks. Just be yourself. And go touch some fucking grass, people. Jesus fucking Christ. Because let's talk about some actual problems. Because this is some actual stuff that's going on within the culture that actually does deserve attention for being as fucked up as it is. And these idiots are not paying attention to it whatsoever. They're bitching about Silent Hill, of all things. And that's what I'm going to call tranny cramming. The idea that you're trying to cram transgenderism into everything, which there are some people that are absolutely guilty of this, and those are the people that should be, called out for the bad behavior, because you're shoving something onto people that they don't want shoved onto them. One of them is a transgender clone trooper that they are calling sister, and then another one, and then Ultimate Hawkeye is now apparently has pronouns and is two-spirit. Mike, you are a resident shaman. Tell this idiot why he's an idiot.
Okay, so who knows about two-spirit here? I kind of explained it a little bit earlier, but
I have no
before that,
fucking clue. It sounds stupid.
Okay, so in the 90s, there was a convention, a conference over in Winnipeg, up in Canada, because of course all the worst things happen in Canada, called the Third Annual Intertribal Native American First Nations Gay and Lesbian American Conference. And they were trying to decide how to deal with the fact that Native Americans had a brutal relationship with sex and gender. And they wanted to, I guess, prevent them from being colonized further by white people. And they wanted a term that they could use to be like, okay, so you're transgender, but in a native fashion. And way back when, most tribes had an initiation ritual for men. And if you didn't pass these rituals, you were not considered a man. So, in the case of, say, the Plains Cree, they had a specific ritual for becoming a man, and that required cutting a square into your chest, starting roughly between your nipples, and a little bit above your nipples, and then cutting a square all the way down until roughly above your belly button. And what you're expected to do with this is attach a bit of bone and a couple of cords to a pole, and you were supposed to spin around this until the upper layer of your skin was torn off. This was called the sun offering. You were not considered a man until you were able to accomplish this at least once. And if you weren't able to do that, you were forced into doing the more feminine labor, which was gathering, cleaning, and gutting of animals, and basically doing anything that wasn't like the more dangerous shit, which was going out and hunting for animals and to eat for food. And so you had these weird situations where there were some men that couldn't hack it, and they decided, you know what, I'm just going to be treated as a woman, and then they just do the womanly duties. And then very occasionally, you would have some women that would actually pull off the male initiation ritual and be treated like a man, because obviously she went through all the suffering to pull the shit off, and so she should be treated as a man. So you had these weird situations, and in the case of the Two-Spirit, they were trying to deal with all the fact that all these various tribes had this situation where someone didn't want to go through the ritual, or they did go through the ritual, and they gained the rights and privileges of being a dude, or not, as it were, if they weren't willing to go through it. And in a way, it's almost colonized this situation. It's kind of fucked. I don't like the concept of two-spirit, because it implies that they're I don't know. It's an awkward phrase, and I don't care for it. But yeah, that's Two-Spirit in a nutshell. Is that they trying to find an umbrella term for all these weird like edge cases that would occur before pre-colonial contact, and like, oh well, we're gonna try to prevent you from being colonized further by giving you a colonized term, so that way you can also be indigiqueer by yourself. Oh God, I hate that fucking it's off-putting. It is genuinely off-putting.
It's like what this comes across to me as the Jew here is we hate the fact that the white people colonized us, so let's try to, you know, throw in a bunch of shit that the white people are wanting to cram into our culture into it. It's like, what the fuck? So that
reminds me of that Latinx nonsense.
Yeah, that's exactly. Okay, you know what? It kind of feels like that. Fucking Latinx. That's how it feels like. That fucking corporate attempt to enslave the Latin speakers, the Spaniards. Ugh.
No one liked it, not even me. I was appalled when I saw other Hispanics using it.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, that's literally not how the culture works. Fucking white people.
Ugh.
I swear. Terrible. All of them. Except for the ones that work for us. They're all right. but no, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm more and more I'm beginning to think that white people must be stopped. But
at least liberals.
yeah. And with the whole thing with like sister in like with the clone things, that's not how clones work. Like at all, especially in Star Wars. Like they are programmed for one purpose. And if you're defective, which is, yeah, you kill clankers, that's it. That's your identity. That's your gender, is clone. Clone of man. That's it. So stuff like this, it doesn't make any sense. I can understand like the whole giving the clones personalities because you kind of something like that is going to develop, but something like this, like the propensity for this sort of thing that would only complicate the battlefield, not make it easier, um, would have been probably bred out by what was the alien race that did this? What planet were they on? I forget the name of
Camino,
it.
the,
Yeah,
the
the
community,
the Kaminoans would have bred this out of like the sample batches, like this. A, a, a clone like this would have been probably killed.
which is weird because I heard in the Bad Batch there's a female clone by the name of Omega. So the community just all of a sudden decide to make a female clone to serve them.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense either. Why would you make a bunch of male clones and then just alter one of them? And this is my thing, folks. This is what needs to be called out. This is what needs to be discussed. This is what deserves the ire. Because this is literally people trying to cram transgenderism down people's throats to try to quote unquote normalize it. I've met
No, which
I've met some transgender people that are outside of their mental illness problems are relatively sensible. They don't like what they are. They don't like the way that they feel. Because they're honest about the way they feel. They don't feel good very often. That's the thing with people in general who have mental illnesses. I speak of, I'm obviously not a transgender person, but I have very bad anxiety issues and depression on top of it. I've been struggling with these illnesses since I was very young. And trying to deal with it at a time where we didn't really understand mental illness that well, it was not easy. It's not easy at all. And at the end of the day, the last thing you want to do is normalize it. Because I know that if I'm looking forward to going out and touching some grass, and then my hand is about to touch the doorknob and I start hearing boss music, that's not literal, but like my heart starts going faster, just by the idea of getting nervous about being outside, that's not normal. I don't like that feeling. It should not be normalized. Because it's not normal. Most people don't have that problem. But for some reason, I do. You know?
Mm-hmm.
There are days when I wake up, especially if I'm not on my meds, where I'll wake up and I just don't want to exist that day. That's not normal. That's not healthy. That's not good. But my mind is fucking with me. Transgender people are going through similar stuff. You shouldn't normalize this stuff. And it's not like this whole thing, you're denying there's just... No, I'm not. What I'm saying is that I want these people to be healthy. And I want these people to get better and feel better. And what you're doing is not going to help. It does not fucking help. Transgenderism is not a fucking sexuality. It is a mental illness. And if you start calling it anything but that, you're not insulting the people by saying that. You're saying that there's something not right here, and you want them to feel better because you care about them. The means of which we do that are things that need to be researched. And all of this cramming it down people's throats, you are taking people away from the things that might actually make them feel better at some point. So yeah. This is...
Plus, you're probably actively making it harder for them because then you're making everyone become reactionary to it. And males have this thing, all right, where we kind of instinctually understand that we may be outnumbered. And we're constantly assessing threats, constantly, to the point where we start noticing, like, okay, well, I know he's not like he. I can say jokes around him. I can say jokes around with him. I can say jokes around with them. To the point where, but when you start becoming like putting way too much of the shit out in the culture, you start getting to that point where you gross people out. You give them nowhere to run, and they will start finding more and more allies, I guess you could call it, that are also reactionary. And they will also find out that they are also grossed out by this thing, and it will just keep snowballing. There's acceptance, and then there's the almost need to turn this into like a sacred cow that is off-putting to those that, well, they may not agree with it, but they'll at least tolerate it. But then you get to the point where it's just like they may not agree with it, and they actively oppose it now because of they keep, that's all they keep seeing over and over and over again, which oddly enough will start dropping tolerance way down. And it's a terrible thing when that instinct of, there's a lot of dudes that agree with me and we don't like this thing, that when that rears up, it's going to be brutal. And I wish they would stop accelerating it, because it's not going to be good when it finally happens.
Yeah. It's something that I've noticed as the years have gone on, is there has been how do I put this? A lot of dudes have just, have wanted to push this out because you're being told that you need to normalize this because this makes people feel better. Guys, I know that the 41% meme is really mean. There was a meme I posted in our business server of somebody tried to virtue signal through the orcs by making an orc cruiser into giving it the transgender colors, and somebody said that the name of it should be the 41 percenters.
Brutal.
Yeah, I'm like, God damn, homie. Like, that motherfucker woke up and chose violence. But trying to cram this down people's throats, like, that's going to be the reaction that you're going to get. Is people are just going to tell you to fuck off, and they're going to start bringing that up. Because the thing is like, through all of the quote-unquote normalization that has been done through the culture, it's not having the effect that you think that it's having. If anything, you're making it worse. And, again, having known people that are transgender and have mental illness struggles, what you're doing that you think helps doesn't help. If it were helping, the suicide rate would have gone down. It's not. It's not going down. When almost half of the transgender people are killing themselves, you're not helping. Nothing you are doing is working. It's time to accept that. It's time to stop this. Because all you're doing is making it worse. Because not only have you not helped transgender people by making this more of a thing, you have also actively turned people against these folks just for having a mental illness. Which literally is the worst case scenario. You have effectively created bigots. That's what's happened. You like, I will say this to all of the people that are on these creators that shove this shit into places it doesn't belong. You are making bigots. You're creating them because that's what the reaction is going to be when you try to force people to believe things that they don't believe. If you want transgender people to be treated like people, you just treat them like people. Don't try to cram them into everything with these fucking caricatures of existence. It just makes people hate it and hate you for putting it in there and hating people for being sick. It mystifies me.
Which is kind of dangerous for a population that makes up less than 3% of the planet.
Basically, my whole thing is I try not to hate anybody. I try my best. You know, I was raised in a pew. You know, raised Christian, and
God.
you know, love one another was always a big part of it. And I understand that I talk some smack. I talk a lot of shit. But I do genuinely love everybody. And I want everybody's lives to be better than what they are. Because it sucks to have a life that sucks. It's a redundant statement, but it's also true. And I see shit like this and I just say, like, this is not a solution. This is not how we do this. You know? Do you guys... Mike will probably remember this pretty well, too. Do you remember the transgender character in Mass Effect Andromeda?
Shoot, wasn't that...
That says their face was tired or some shit?
Yes.
Oh, God.
I forgot about them.
That
Person was transgender.
Yeah. And the thing is that they have the transgender character. The character is obviously written by probably a white woman. They have this character dead name themselves. For anybody who's been around transgender people, they don't do that.
They don't. They try to hold it in as much as they can.
So, and just seeing that, it's like, you're not helping. You're not helping the world. I hate to quote Jon Stewart, but there was this political debate between Tucker Carlson and the other guy that was on his show. And Jon Stewart literally looked at both guys and just said, "You two are hurting America." That's what I want to. That's what I want to say to all the people that are doing this sort of shit. You are hurting America. You are hurting the West by doing this, because you are actively causing people to hate folks just for having a mental illness, because you're shoving it down and shoving it into places where it doesn't fucking belong. I'm going to give a writing tip to everybody. Somebody asked me this question once of why with Inglewood, my first comic, why the lead character, the Saint, was black. And I don't know the reason why the person asked the question. Some people thought it was a racist question to ask. I don't necessarily agree. I said the reason that the Saint is a black superhero and why I did a black superhero is because if you are a martial artist, a mixed martial artist, and you're coming from Chicago, you will probably, statistically speaking, we will probably be black. It makes sense for the setting. And then I wrote 3 Nights, 4 Days, and every character in 3 Nights, 4 Days is white. Why? Because it takes place in Europe. Europe in the 1100s. Everybody's pasty as fuck. Unless you were like one of the Moors that emigrated to a different nation, which those were very rare.
Thirdly rare.
You know, everybody was gonna be fucking white as hell. That's the reason why those characters are that way. It has nothing to do with it's not a commentary on anything in the culture. It's just these characters being this way makes sense for the setting. If you want to have a transgender character, you need to find a way for the presence of that character to make sense. This whole
I should
two
also
spirit thing, or trying to make a clone into a transgender person and literally having them paint the fucking transgender flag on their armor. This is not. These do not make sense. They don't make sense at all within the context. They're culturally offensive in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Starbucks politics is what it is. That's what this reminds me of, and what like I actively felt like Starbucks was hurting America with this. I remember during the BLM days where Starbucks was like putting like have we had a conversation about race or something like that on their coffee cups. It's like, bitch, I'm here for coffee.
I also wanted to say, don't do what some comics have done and just make your entire cast gay and just openly state there's no heterosexuality. You know that doesn't make any fucking sense. Looking at you, Sister Claire. I'm sorry, I really hate that fucking webcomic because it's like every single gripe you brought up just reminded me of how pandering that webcomic was.
Oh god, don't look over Moon over June. Oh, what a goofy fucking comic that was.
Like every single character was some form of gay, even like a fucking European monarch couple was in a relationship with a fucking transgender Persian prostitute who was older than them.
Moon over June's still going.
I don't know.
I'm looking. Terrible.
As it stands, just don't just do not bring this fucking Starbucks politics into everything. Stop trying to make everything political. Stop trying to shove it into everything. You're just making people hate you. If you feel that this much must happen, find a way that it makes sense. But this doesn't make sense.
Oh shit.
Thank God, that's the last post was like a year ago. Okay.
So I guess the encouragement for this week, for those out there, man, touch that grass. Go touch it. Just go. Go outside. It's autumn here in the West. Go out and enjoy the leaves on the trees. Go on a walk. Go on a walk with your headphones in, listening to some good music, and just take in the world around you, man. I do this, I want to say like once a week. I just throw on my headphones, I get dressed, I go outside, and I just walk for a while. And just take it in. And then I try to go like to maybe a store or something like that, walk in there, look at some stuff, say hi to people. You know, try to strike up a conversation. Somebody tries to talk to me about politics, I just go, man, I really don't want to talk about politics. It is way too nice today. And trust me when I tell you, folks, having that connection to the world outside of the internet will keep you sane in an insane world. Because the one thing you will realize when you start going out and interacting with John and Jane Q. Public and normal people, you'll start to realize that a lot of the stuff that gets bitched about online only exists in the online space. It's not something that's happening a lot out in normal life. Try to escape these things. Try to get away from them. Try to get distance. That's what Grindstone endeavors to do. Is we're going to try to make entertainment that is stuff that gets you away from the insanity and gets you to a place where you can enjoy yourself with a good story. So, I hope you all have a great week. I hope you guys touch some grass. If I offended you with some of the things that I said this week, you probably needed it. because I care about you and I want you to do better and I want you to have good things. But sometimes, but if you're spending too much time online to the point where you're seeing penises everywhere, man, you really got to get out. Get away from that monitor. Go touch some grass. Go enjoy the world, this beautiful world that God created. You'll feel better. Trust me. On that note, folks, I think that I am ready to pour myself another Pepsi and enjoy a relaxing evening. Thank you all so much for coming and joining us. If some of you have been missing Wayne and Xavier, trust me, we are too. Wayne lives in North Carolina, and there's been hurricane problems out there, as some of you know. He didn't get hit directly by it, but it has made coverage for internet and stuff very spotty for his area. And Xavier has been working at, well, his jobs, plural at this point, like a madman trying to get some catch-up money and stuff like that, which is understandable. It happens sometimes. So we appreciate all you guys for coming by and hanging out with us week after week on this show. Don't forget, of course, to share the podcast around to people who might not have heard it yet. And if you are listening to this, and if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anywhere else that this podcast is found, please don't forget to leave us a rating so that we can help grow this show. So on that note, guys, for Mike and Serena and for everybody else here at Grindstone Hearts, thank you all so much for supporting us and listening to us as we ramble on. My name is Micah Curtis, the head of the company, president, CEO, the big Goomba. Thank you all so much for listening to us, and we'll see you guys next week.
Brick.